And then the Caldor fire. The Caldor fire really, I mean, it's been going for a little bit. The town of Grizzly Flats was burned a couple weeks ago by it, which was super sad. But when I was in quarantine, it took off towards Tahoe. And that was so crazy to watch. It currently sits at 216,646 acres, around 50% contained. Were you watching as that happened? Like, did you follow the news?
I was trying to see. Yes, I was. And I was looking at maps. Everyone wants to know exactly where it is, where it's going. And because everyone loves Tahoe. And it's also, everyone had to evacuate quickly. It was a very dangerous situation for the community, a community that I love. So, I was paying attention.
Yeah, it's a lot of people, were saying, how come you guys put so much time into this fire compared to others? And I think it does. I think a lot of people in Northern California have a connection with Tahoe just because it is a tourist destination, whether you live there or not, whether you own a cabin there or not, which I know plenty of people who do, and they still don't know if their cabin is standing. But, I have a strong personal connection with Tahoe. I spent so much time there snowboarding when I was in college. And one of the places that is impacted by it and probably will be impacted by it for years to come was Sierra at Tahoe. And so for me, watching as the flames approach Sierra was a hard pill to swallow, I guess. And, we'll talk about it here in a second, but, I think we made it out okay. Sierra did, at least. And by the way, we did some merch for this. We did some Tahoe Strong merch, which actually did really well. We're gonna do all the math and see how much we raised. It was well over $1,000, I know. But it was just, I was laying in bed in quarantine, and I just following this thing so intently, and it was just, it's crazy that this is like the world we're living in now,
Yeah, we saw it coming, and it's, it's unfortunate that we have to spend the majority of what we talk about on this podcast talking about either drought-related or fire-related topics. But, what does is it hits home. When we saw our hometown of Redding go up in flames, we couldn't stop watching. Similar to this, you say you spent a lot of time snowboarding in Tahoe in college. We used to go to Tahoe every Thanksgiving as a family. Yeah. So, we have a really strong bond and love for that area. So seeing it, and that let's just get into the first fire news. This is an all fire news topic podcast today. Sierra Tahoe burned in the Caldor fire. What exactly was touched? What was exactly burned in Sierra at Tahoe?
So only obviously, I don't know. I haven't been up there to see it. Like, no one can go up there really, but one building was burned. A storage facility, I believe, was burned. Other than that, they did a really good job protecting the lifts as well as the lodge at the bottom. Well, they got
creative with it.
They used snow guns. They used snow blowers to, and it's, I never considered it before, but it's genius. They're just massive hoses. And the only time you can make snow is when it's freezing temperatures out. It's 32 degrees or less. So it's hot and they're just like, let's just blow water. So they just all night long as the fire passed through, and it passed through pretty quickly. They were just blowing water all over the bottom lodge. I mean, that was the most important thing. As long as that didn't burn down and as long as there wasn't significant damage to the lifts, they're going to be okay. Now, we've seen, and now seeing the impact of these fires years out, we're talking about the Carr fire, Whiskeytown trails are still closed because of that fire, because it weakens the foundation of the land, it weakens trees, it makes a dangerous scene at these places. So the question remains, how is Sierra going to be closed for the next year? I don't know. 2 years even?
No, I don't know. I mean, I kind of doubt it, right? But they got the the facilities to be able to make some improvements.
But you think about it. So that's a big mountain with a ton of backdoor area or backdoor, a ton
You said it.
of backcountry areas. So there's a lot of trees. So essentially they have to go through and look at every single tree and make sure it is, it's not fully compromised by the flames. And that's going to take forever. And my guess is they're going to be impacted heavily weakened by the fire. So you can't be having people snowboarding through, potentially leaning on a tree, say, and it falling over. That is super dangerous. Or like, tree wells are really dangerous when it's super snowy. Will those be even worse because of the fire? I mean, there's a lot of questions, and this is just something we don't know. How does wildfire impact a ski resort? We don't know. We didn't know how big it would impact the man-made trails in Whiskeytown, and it turns out it impacts them a lot. So, and by the way, they're now letting people back into South Lake Tahoe, not so much the Myers, Christmas Valley area, but South Lake Tahoe. But Caldor fire is still burning actively, and especially around the areas of Kirkwood. So, I mean, it's certainly not over yet, and we could see more damage like this. But this is a first, a Northern California ski resort being burned in a massive wildfire, and I can't say that I'm shocked.
No, I mean, it just keeps getting worse and worse, and more things that we never thought would burn are going to burn in the coming years unless we get rain. We'd really like to get some rain.
Right.
Well, the next story, same fire officials have formed a miracle saving home in South Lake Tahoe from the Caldor fire.
Yeah, this was actually a really popular article on our website because we really got deep into how they did it. Because when the Caldor fire, it went through Sierra at Tahoe, and then it hits Echo Summit. And if anyone has taken the 50 down Echo Summit into South Lake, it is, and this was a quote by a fire official, it's like looking down a gun barrel. It comes down that ravine into it, and there's homes all the way until the lake. So essentially, these firefighters said, okay, we know it's going to burn down the hill. And they just started working really hard to protect all the homes. And there's a line that goes around all the homes in Myers, Christmas Valley area, all to South Lake Tahoe, and essentially all the way to Heavenly. And they created this, they bulldozed lines.
Fire lines.
Yes. So essentially, they dig up the dirt, they create these huge piles of dirt, and they double dozed it, which means there's two giant mounds of dirt, and they made that dozer line like 60 feet long.
60 feet? It's usually like 20, right?
Right. They had to do this. They had to do this, or else there was going to be a significant loss of homes. So they did double dozer lines, completely surrounding Myers all the way. If you turn onto Pioneer Road, they did it all next to Pioneer Road, and then essentially did it on the west side of Heavenly, on the California side of Heavenly, to block everything. And quite frankly, it is shocking what they were able to do to protect these homes.
They also didn't they douse a lot of area with fire retardant as well?
Yes, of course. And that was more of a tactic in like the Kirkwood area, that they were using those, retardant and water. They were dropping a lot. I don't think they use that tactic as much on the neighborhoods. I could be wrong, but they do that a lot in like the wilderness areas. They did a lot around Echo Lake, which is a magnificent place if you've never been there. I think they did some in the Desolation Wilderness, which is another place that burned, which is kind of crazy. Although it's going to be hard to say how much actually burned. There's not like a ton of trees up that high elevation of Desolation Wilderness. And of course, you know, the homes up in the higher elevation near Sierra at Tahoe along 50 there did burn. Some did, some were saved. From what I understand, most of the homes that burned were on the north side of 50. But it was really a miracle what they were able to do, because the fire came down right when a red flag warning hit. There was 30-mile-an-hour winds. There were dry fuels. It was the worst case scenario, and yet they were able to perform these home-saving, these life-saving tactics that, you know, essentially saved South Lake Tahoe. So it was those days, and it seems like so long ago when I was sitting in quarantine doing this. I guess it was about a week ago now. Those days seemed really scary at the time, and you know, I'm glad we were able to make it out of there alive and in its best condition as we can be, considering the circumstances.
Shout out Cal Fire.
All the firefighters,
the heroes, all the firefighters.
Yeah.